inside, you will have accomplished a miracle in these 6 days in itself. To just learn how to be here. Because it's only when you can hold this more, or the story, which is dressed in these emotions and feelings and body sensations that are scary or hurting or whatever it is, that we say, oh, I don't want to feel that. That hurts or pains me or terrifies me or whatever. They're always clothed in that down here. Or even excitement or curiosity oftentimes is frightening to people because they don't know the answers. They can't be creative because creativity frightens them even, because it's not all wrapped up and clean and very clear where it's going to go. It's just the future's wide open, and it might be exciting, but even excitement gets scary for some people. So usually there's something about the unknown, this is always the unknown, that people run away from. The key to learn focusing, from my experience, is to teach people how to dwell in what they've normally gone like this to. And what Dr. Gentleman found is that when that can go forward inside us, that the change in the body, the way the body carries it, is a profoundly health-giving, life-giving change. It moves from being stuck to being open. What he showed was that it is not the trauma of past experiences, which many people, all of us, have had from childhood or maybe in adulthood. It's not what somebody has done to you or what has happened to you that causes us to be stuck and not grow, that causes us emotional problems. It's the being out of touch with the meaning of that experience in our lives, which is very exciting and hopeful, because that means no matter what has happened to us, that there's no reason for us not to grow. And that's good news. See, that those traumatic events are not going to cripple us for the rest of our lives. We may have the scars. We're not saying that we don't carry scars. But it means that if we are able to hold that as we feel it in our bodies now, we don't have to go back and relive those experiences. Our body doesn't ask us to do that, to kind of go through the whole thing again, the whole trauma of the abuse or whatever. But if we can hold how it feels to carry that pain now as an adult inside, and we don't run away from it, and that's what we teach in focusing, is how to do just that, then it will say to us what it needs to say, and that will shift in the way we carry it, and life can go forward. It's not stuck. It's the being stuck that causes the emotional problems.
And that being stuck is what we try to illustrate here with this little brick wall. What we do is we all put a brick wall right across here when what's down here is painful or scary or hurting. And we seal it off. And we seal it off, and then we're afraid to go near it because we have catastrophic expectations that if I get anywhere near it, I will be destroyed, or I will dissolve, or something bad will happen to me, you see. And what focusing does is, focusing is a gentle way to own what is real above the iceberg, my anger, my afraidness, or whatever else it may be, and then to go into and through that to the more, and to allow this story that's down here to unfold. And you see, it's when this can begin to change and tell its story that the feelings in you that you carry around that can begin to change. This doesn't change because you think it right. And Gentleman's language is very clear on this. He says, knowing is not the process of changing. It's that simple. You can have all the information about why you are the way you are, and you still go on feeling the same. So it's like you need to find a way into your body, through the brick wall, so that you can hold and dwell in what is real in you long enough in a caring way that it can begin to tell you its story. And as it tells its story in symbols, as Ed was saying earlier, as the symbols are spoken, then the way you carry it can begin to change. And as Genlin says, the inner landscape changes. And that's the process of focusing. What's important about that is that you create kinship with this place inside that you've been pushing away. What can you do to establish a relationship, with a body relationship, with the place inside you that you've been holding at arm's length, perhaps for a long time? What will that place inside you need from you in a body way in order that it can begin to trust you enough that it will tell you its story? You don't tell the place, well, I'm going to do this and this and this and this, because, see, then you have power. Then you're in control and you're dictating to the place how it's going to be. No, you go to that place and you ask that place, how do you need me to be with you?
We want to do a short exercise. It's another way of trying to get at what we were doing last night. And I find for myself and working with people that it's an important doorway for you to walk through to discover once again your own inner teacher, for developing a body sense of being with the things inside that you normally would go like this to. So if you want to close your eyes for a moment and quiet down inside, I'd ask you to go back in your experience, wherever you might need to go, whether it's back to childhood or just maybe last week or wherever, and try to recall if you have ever just been fully in something, just fully in something in a non-thinking, a non-planning, a non-worrying way. For example, have you ever had the experience of just being in some sound, like music, or the sound of waves at the ocean, or of leaves in the fall rustling in the wind, or of lying on the grass in the springtime on a hillside, in a meadow, or just in the color and mood of a sunset, or of a sunrise, or a beautiful view from a hilltop, or just in somebody's arms, just in the presence of a little child as you held maybe your child, just played with him or changed his diapers, just watched him in a crib, or maybe on your grandma's lap, or maybe just in the whole experience of just holding a little kitty or your little dog when you were a child, being in the corner of your bedroom with a doll that you could just be with and share and talk to as a friend when you were a little girl. Is there some place in your own life that sort of stands out and comes back to you when you think of it, where you could just be there in a non-thinking, non-fixing, non-controlling way, and what was there could just get inside you? If you're able to recall a time or place, person, situation, something, somewhere, somebody that you were just free enough, it was safe enough that you could just let go and be in what was there and let the sounds or the senses or the words or the feel that was around you, no barriers, no protections, you could just let it get inside. And see if you can recall what that felt like, just being that way with this place, this person, this whole situation or event or whatever it was. How does it feel, and how did it feel in my body? How does it feel in my body now when I attempt to recall that? Just take myself back to that time and that place. What's the body feel of it? And even more important, see if you can notice, what did I have to do, or what just happened as a child, or maybe what did I have to do as an adult, to let that sound, or that smell, or that sight, or that person, or whatever, or to let that little animal get inside me. What did I have to do with my usual thinking, planning, holding myself tight, worrying, trying to control, trying to fix, manipulate kind of way of living all the time? What did I physically have to do to connect that way? See if you can get a sense for what you did then. Let that in. And then secondly, see if you can notice, what did I do with my head? What's happening to my usual head way of doing things when I'm just in something or was just in this whole thing? What was going on with my head then? And can I notice the body feel of that? My question would be, what did you notice about what you had to do in your body in order to let that in first? And secondly, these are two important things to learn about yourself, so I keep spelling them out and repeating them. What did you have to do to allow that inside? And secondly, what did you do or did happen just happen to your head? What we're learning here is how to have affection for the things we have labeled an enemy. What's affection? What's the old meaning of affect in spirituality? It simply means that we learn how physically in our body how to let something get inside us. But affect means learning how to dispose our body for gift. You're learning in your body how to let those symbols in your story come in, which are graces.
And if you've never accepted yourself, you won't accept the people you meet. No, I love you, I've called you by your name, and this is what I'm calling you to be. May you be real, be free, be worthy of me, be yourself, because you are the person I love. May you be real, be free, be worthy of me, be yourself, because you are the person I love.
Have you ever had the experience of talking with someone and you can feel that that other person really isn't there? Who hasn't had that experience, huh? Sometimes we live with people or work with people all the time, but we have that feeling that the person really isn't there or they're half there. And we say to somebody else maybe, or to ourselves, she's looking straight at me, but she doesn't feel like she's here. Doesn't feel like she's here. Or you might say something like this, I'm not getting through to her. And or we're not connecting. So what we've been doing up to this point is trying to help ourselves connect or be here or really be present to ourselves. Because we're acting that way, the same thing that annoys us with other people or that feels really off in when you're trying to get through to somebody, you say, or trying to have someone be present to you when you're sharing something that's important. You know how that feels. Well, just imagine what it feels like inside you if you could be a little part of yourself. Let's say that little part of yourself that hurts, or that was neglected when you were a little girl, or is mad as hell about something, really feels frustrated. Imagine what it feels like to be living with a person 24 hours a day who's that way to you. And that's what we do to ourselves. We're that halfway, not really there, not really connected, not really present to a part of me that wants to be listened to, wants to connect, wants to be paid attention to. When you put it in those kind of terms, it's kind of shocking what we do to ourselves. In one sense, how violent we really are to parts of me that are so precious. Jerry Mays, to me, called a book called Simply Sane, Crossroads book. He said, in all my experience as a psychiatrist and as a human being, the deepest, most pervasive pathology I have seen is the incredible harshness we have toward ourselves. After years of much experience, and I would say that was the same thing I experienced, because I've been a therapist for over 40 years. And I began to realize that's the key thing that nobody seems to be paying any attention to, is the way we're half present, half there, always disconnected, really neglecting, really harsh, far more so on ourselves than we usually are on other people, but it usually spills over in time, because I think very much we treat other people the way we treat ourselves. So biospiritual approach to focusing really invests a lot of time in working and trying to give you some ways of turning that around, trying to give all of us, because it's a lifetime re-education, I suppose. And that's why we're spending the time we're spending last night and today in particular with working at practical ways that we can be present, really connected to what's real inside. Just like we value when we're with another person and we say, gee, she's really here. Really felt connected to her. He was really listening to me. Mine wasn't, and something wasn't 10,000 miles away. We started with that example last night with the child and holding the baby, and I said, can you notice in your own body then how you would be present to that kind of a situation, how instinctively you would try to be there in a body way that said to that child, I care. And see if you can transfer over that capacity, which all of us still have, but lots of times it isn't very surfaced or used very much, that capacity to be with a place inside yourself that wants you to be really present inside. Really connected, really there. Not just the thought of, like if when you're talking to somebody and they're trying to be very polite and they're looking at you, you know that feel? And you feel, they're looking right through me, or they're just not there. See, we treat ourselves very much like that. We say, oh yes, I want to be present to you, I want to be this and that. Well, it's more than that. There's something in our bodies that has to open up, like I was saying, the pores. Something in our musculature has to ease up And we just sort of let our body be there and connect with somebody or something. And that was the second exercise this morning that I came to with you. Is there any kind of situation anywhere, let's say whether it's in nature and beauty or with a person or when you were a little child, where you could just let something really get inside, really, really touch you, really connect with you? There was some person, like when I do this, what I think of right away is when I was a little kid, both my grandmothers were alive. And both of them were very loving people to me. And this particular grandmother, my dad's mother, had 12 children. And she was a wonderful cook. And she had one of these laps, I guess from holding 12 children, that was so huge you could just crawl up on it and nestle up against it. And she had very big breasts, and she was just a warm, comfy, soft place to just nestle up on Grandma's lap. So I would take my little wagon and ride down the hill there, and it was about the time she was always watering her garden in the afternoon, and she would see me coming, and she'd say, "Well, while you're here," she said, "now it's the time for me to say my rosary. Do you want to say the rosary with me?" And then I'd just crawl up in Grandma's lap and just sit there, and oftentimes just put my head back and go to sleep. And I could just like sink into that woman. It was just so safe, it was so loving, and she was just quietly praying there, and that's the memory that comes back to me over and over when I think of where could I just really let go like that. And so if you can, and there's a real body feel to that for me. And so when there's a place inside myself that I need to just allow it to be, allow myself to sink into it, to hold it, to be with it like I used to be able to let myself let go.